so now the people know what they're listening to.
Okay. Yes.
Give the people
All of our everyone out in listener land knows that this is the Catholic Dads podcast. So
on the best week ever.
On the best week ever. So
in quotes.
I've got a prayer that, one day just kind of came to me, and it was around with all the kids, upstairs for bedtime prayers, and I said, God, give us the grace to become the men you created us to be. Mm-hmm. And actually use that prayer during not only the bedtime prayers, but at the time I was coaching YMCA flag football, and I wanted to start or at least end every practice and games with a prayer. So I carried it over to that as well. But I think that's true. It's like, that's what I want ultimately for my children is, for me, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I, just for everybody, I want those graces. God, you created me for a reason. Mm-hmm. So give me the grace to be that man.
Yep.
To be that husband, to be that father, to be that son, to be that employee, to be that supervisor. Every role that I fill, mm-hmm. God has a plan for me in there. And I heard, the Catholic Stuff You Should Know, shout out to them. They were talking about on the podcast today that God is going to make you a saint in the vocation that you're in. Mm-hmm. So whatever is your called vocation, that's how you're going to become a saint.
Love that one.
Okay, yep. So, if you're a priest, that's where you're going to become a saint.
Right. In
your priest, ministering your priestly duties.
Well, and that's where you'll get your cross as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So when you pick up your vocation, you get to pick up your cross.
That's right. And us as fathers, we're in the married vocation. That's where we're going to become saints. So, God, give me the grace to become the man you created me to be. And praying with the boys, it's give us the graces, right? Mm-hmm. So, one week, it was just like the best week ever.
So in the background here is, as Chad was telling me the story about the best week ever, we were out on a rainy patio sipping margaritas, and he said, man, This would be a great podcast.
Yes, that is.
So that would be a great podcast. This, I'm not quite so sure, but we'll keep going.
It would have been a great podcast had we, had the forethought, and now we're trying to go back and relive it, I guess. But it was. So anyway, I was starting to think, why was that the best week ever? What made that week so special? Mm-hmm. And when I started to go back and think, it was like, okay, we started off. It was Tuesday. We had a rise mm-hmm. at the church, so there was Mass and benediction of the Blessed Sacrament. Wednesday we had Wednesday Mass with Father Rafa. Yep. Shout out to Father Rafa, the best spiritual director and father ever. And Thursday was Holy Day of Obligation mm-hmm. for the Assumption.
I think it was the Assumption of Mary. No, was it? I think it was Assumption of Mary.
Either the Assumption or the...
No, it was Assumption.
Or the... see, I'm a bad Catholic.
We didn't do any research prior to the beginning of this podcast. But
once again,
we would have known that it was the Assumption of Mary in August.
Okay. Anyway.
We can edit that part out.
So anyway, but the point is, I had received
You were getting your tank filled every single day of that week.
This is a 3 out of the work week, and this was on a Friday, Margarita Friday.
Yep.
Right? So here we are, Margarita Friday, reflecting back on the week before, and out of those 5 days of the work week, 3 of those days had Mass and mm-hmm. Eucharist.
Yep.
So, Jeff, how do you get grace? How do we get grace? I'm praying for grace. God, give me the grace to mm-hmm. become the man is God going to beam grace down on me just like, I guess he could, right?
So, that is why we have sacraments in the church, right? So, sacraments are God's promise to us that those things will bring grace, right? It'll imbue us with grace. Now, he can give us grace whenever he wants, right?
Absolutely.
And you can pray for grace.
He's God.
And you can, yeah, absolutely, right? But the sacraments are a promise, right? And so when you go to reconciliation, when you go to Mass, when you get married and live in a sacramental marriage, which I'm sure will be a subject of a podcast that will be very uncomfortable at some point, all of these things, right, promise grace, and it's all biblical. It's all in there, right? Yeah. Anointing with oil, anointing the sick, the priesthood. These are things that give us grace, right? And Chad, what is grace, and why do we need it?
Thank you for putting me on the spot, Jeff. Well, grace is the sanctifying grace that fills your soul is what allows you to participate with Christ, and I mean to be a part of, to be one with, to be basically in communion with God. And I'm just saying, like, a sacrament is an outward sign,
Yep.
instituted by Christ to give that grace
Of an inward truth.
Oh yes, yeah.
Which we learned from Catholic Stuff You Should Know.
How many times can we plug their podcast?
It's just for the first podcast. Blah, blah, blah. It's just the first podcast because then after that
we'll be able to keep on plugging them. But so it dawned on me there on that patio, Margarita Friday, that the reason why that was the best week ever is because by going to Mass, by receiving the Eucharist, I was getting grace.
Yep.
I was receiving the sacrament, daily. So it's like, wow, this is truly the best week ever because I've been just experiencing that effectively the friendship of God that whole week.
So that best week ever, of course, in quotes, right? Because I'm sure you could pick a couple other best weeks.
Oh
ever.
yeah.
But given that, what you're meaning is that everything went well, right? That week went really well, and what you were sharing with me is like things just were smooth, man. It wasn't that it was easy, right? Because life isn't easy. But it was handleable, and things were under control, and work was good, and it wasn't bluebirds flying by your window driving into work.
No,
but you had that strength and confidence.
I was in the proper frame of mind.
Yep.
To handle everything.
Right.
So like if I was just like on any other week, I want to make sure that everybody understands that that's a rarity that I go to Mass. Effectively that was 4 times a week because I went to Mass on Sunday as well. So that's a rarity. That is not, I'm by no means a, go to Mass every day kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it just so happened that all the stars aligned. I needed to play music at Arise, so there was Mass before it. There you go.
Right.
Father Rafa was leaving, so I wasn't missing any of the Wednesday Masses during lunch. So there was the Wednesday Mass, and then Holy Day Obligation on Thursday. Boom, there you go.
Yep.
And then obviously the Sunday obligation. So boom, there you go. So, but it put me in the right place.
So in terms of that, that'll be for a later podcast as well. So now this whole Assumption of Mary thing is just driving me crazy. So I will find out what it was in August. So
I want to say that's Mary's birthday. It's the Immaculate Conception, I think.
You know what? And I'm thinking that I may have
Am I supposed to make some filler joke here?
Yeah, you're supposed to make some noise and some other stuff. So I just want to make sure that I'm really wrong. Assumption of Mary, Thursday, August 15th, 2013.
Okay, so it was the Assumption. You're right. I was wrong.
Fair enough. Well, I just didn't want to put out any bad information to the populace because you're not sure who's going to be listening to this, right?
Yeah.
Could be anybody. But the point was, and the other thing I thought about when you were talking about this, right, is that invitation to that is always there, right? And, and so in our humanness and in our fallenness, that invitation is often passed by, right? And so there was a really good article I read today that was about kind of mature love and what that really means. And that means not passing by on that invitation, right? So you had Mass 3 times that week, and I'm not putting this on you because I've had experiences that go right to this too, but you had Mass 3 times that week. Friday night, we're sipping margaritas on the patio in the drizzle, thinking, wow, that was amazing. That was a great week. I was so close to my Creator. Things just seem to be going well. I feel great, right?
Yeah.
Monday morning, we both woke up. Neither of us went to Mass, right? Tuesday, neither of us made it to adoration, right? Yeah. That Wednesday, probably went to Mass because Father Rafa was leaving. We probably tried to go to those Wednesday Masses as much as possible, right? Yes. But maybe not because one of those Wednesdays he wasn't in there and there wasn't a Mass and I didn't go in for adoration or I didn't do anything extra, right? Yeah. And so it's so easy for us to get that invitation and for whatever reason, right? And I won't put on whatever reason it is.
Yeah.
We put the invitation back down, right?
It's this part of your life, work, family. I mean, whatever happens, and we can make excuses all day long. Yep. And that's really what it is. I mean, when you look down to it, I think to me, to kind of wrap this all up, it's just that's a great point, Jeff. You've got the invitation. The invitation is there.
Yep.
every day.
Yep.
You can go receive the sacrament by going to Mass every day, receive the Eucharist, and what do we do with that invitation? And it's like He's there waiting for us, all the time. And the close second to receiving the Eucharist is adoration, right?
Yep.
So if you can't, go drop in, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and that was Father Office. He would always, tell me that, just go stop by the Adoration Chapel on the way to work, on the way home from work.
Yep.
Just all it takes is 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because essentially, who doesn't want to be closer to Christ, right? I mean, we call ourselves Catholic Christian men. Of course, we want to be closer to Christ.
Yep.
And what better way to know someone than to spend time with them?
Yep.
So we can spend time with Him in the Word, right? So reading the Bible every day. We can spend time with Him in adoration, in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and receiving the Eucharist. I mean, and right there, those three things, we have access every day.
Yep.
To do.
Yep.
So that would in effect, by doing one or two or all of those things, would give us,
you get just a little bit, right?
week after week of the best week ever.
Yep. So the other thought I just had run through my mind. So background, right? You were raised Catholic, right? So you don't know any other tradition, right? And I was agnostic, and maybe even partially atheist before coming to the church, right? So I didn't really know any other tradition either, right? So from the outside looking in, why would you go to Mass every day, right? If you had no understanding of what that spirituality is and what that grace really is, or have ever experienced that physical presence of that grace, which I have, and hopefully everybody has at some point felt that physical presence of it, is an amazing thing. It's not just going to hear a pastor talk, right? It's not just going for praise and worship and listen to the music and feeling really good and coming out on psychological high or a spiritual high or whatever. There's something more and deeper to it, which passed through the entire week, right? Now, sure, someone would argue, I go to church on Wednesday and Sunday, I feel the same way, I don't need Mass, or I don't need to go to Eucharist, or I don't need to whatever, right? But I think there's something very special here, and part of the reason that we're doing this, or part of my mission in doing this, is to share that side of the Catholic faith, right? As a Catholic dad, why are you doing this, right? Why would you get your kids up at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning, get them dressed, fight with them the whole time in the car, stand in the back of the church while they're yelling and screaming, and go up and get Eucharist and miss everything about it, right? And why would you make time out of your work week to go sit in the chapel in the quiet for 45 minutes when you could be working out, or you could just be checking email, or you could be surfing the web, and it's a pain in the butt to go get in a hot car and drive 20 minutes to go sit in a church, right?
Yeah.
Why? Why would you do that? Because it's amazing. Because our Creator has asked us to do that, right? And there's something more than just going to that chapel. There's something more there.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, I mean, when Christ says, the Garden of Gethsemane, He says, stand here and watch with me for 1 hour.
Right.
You couldn't watch for me for 1 hour, right? I mean, that's
exactly
a conviction. You know what I mean? Like, kind of slink in my chair, like,
yeah. Can't even stay awake.
Yeah. Why is that? Yeah. Why couldn't you stop by?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, it's inconvenient for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Oh, in our case, right? We used to have a chapel at our old campus.
Yeah.
We've talked about this too, right?
That was very convenient.
It was very convenient because it was on the corner, right?
Yeah.
And now it's a mile from the road.
Yeah.
And that's too inconvenient to stop on the way into work, because you have to, you might have to cross
traffic.
Yeah, and there's no light, so it's
no light yet.
It's difficult. Yeah, yet. And it's not gonna be any better when there is a light. That just means we're gonna get to all wait rather than just having to wait to cross the street for Jesus. So, that's good, man.
I think that's a good stopping point, because I would like to. I think we can pick up on the other topic that you had mentioned about why go to church if you're just going to be with your kid in the back, not getting anything out of it. So I think we'll save that one for the next one. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Thanks
for listening.